you all for joining us for this presentation of report on Ukraine's security and Euro-Atlantic integration. We're joined by the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak, and former Danish Prime Minister and NATO Secretary General Andriy Rasmussen. I'll pass the floor directly to Mr. Andriy Rasmussen to give some opening remarks.
Thank you all for joining us today at the Copenhagen Democracy Summit, and thank you, Andriy, for taking the long and challenging trip from Kiev to Copenhagen. We really appreciate your presence here, and we are here to present a strategy to finish the war and start building a just peace in Ukraine. For that purpose, we brought together some of the best political minds and leaders, including former presidents, prime ministers, and secretaries of state. It is a group that recognizes that half measures will only mean continuing war, that bold action is needed if we are to end this conflict on acceptable terms. This report comes at a very difficult moment. Russia has made progress on the battlefield while continuing their brutal attacks on Ukrainian cities and critical infrastructure. This is the result of our political distraction and doubt. The latest package of US military aid took more than 6 months to be approved. Europeans are still struggling to deliver the pledged munitions. The damage done by this lack of strong Western leadership can be counted in the number of dead Ukrainian soldiers. The reality is that we must wake up. We must change our approach of giving too little, too late. Political leaders need to be bold and make clear that our support for Ukraine's security and sovereignty is irreversible. Right now, Vladimir Putin still doubts our commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty. He still believes he can outlast the democratic world. We must show him that he cannot. This report explains how to do just that. Our time is limited, so let me just share 3 key recommendations. First, we call for NATO leaders to invite Ukraine to begin accession talks at this year's Washington summit, while tasking the Ukraine NATO Council to look at the specific conditions that need to be addressed to become a member. Opening accession talks does not mean that Ukraine will join NATO overnight, but it sends an unequivocal message to Vladimir Putin that continuing his illegal war will not prevent it. Second, the report sets a target date for Ukrainian membership of no later than July 2028. By setting an ambitious but realistic date, leaders would make clear that Ukraine is not just being moved from one waiting room to another, that they are committed to progressing quickly on the outstanding questions regarding Ukraine's membership. And then lastly, the report sets out a series of proposals that can help contain and ultimately end the war. This includes measures to boost financial support for Ukraine, such as transferring the $300 billion in frozen Russian assets to Ukraine, and allies agreeing to spend 0.25% of GDP on military support. It also includes measures to reduce Putin's ability to escalate in all domains This includes the creation of a humanitarian air defense shield over Western Ukraine and lifting all caveats on types of weapons delivered to Ukraine and caveats on their use against military targets inside Russia. Overall, the report outlines an ambitious agenda and makes clear why bringing Ukraine into NATO will help pave the path to peace and security in Europe. I look forward to taking your questions.
And Mr. Yermak, the floor is
Yes.
yours.
Hello, everyone. First of all, the others, thank you for invitations, and I'm have the honor to have this opportunity to come to great country, Denmark, for a couple of hours to participate for presentation for very important documents which we created together with our friends, colleague from International Working Group. You know that we have some very successful experience. Our first document, Kyiv Security Compact, which we started in this time very, I can say, skepticism, but now you know that it's a based, Kyiv Security Compact started a base documents for the Vilnius declarations, and already we have on the base of these declarations of the security guarantees, we have already 9 agreements. Now we are working with our American friends and partners for the same agreements and for some in other countries. You know that unfortunately the terrible war and aggression Russia in Ukraine is continuing. And you know that recently Russia launched a new counteroffensive. And the situation in Kharkivsky region, it's really very hard. And this is one more evidence and demonstration that Putin wanted to stop. Putin wanted to any real negotiations and real not have the will to agree about any just peace. He won't dictate, and he wants only to speak in the languages of ultimatum, which never will be acceptable for Ukrainian brave nations. And this is a very important, because during these 2 years, our nations, our soldiers, our heroes, our people demonstrated that we're able not just to defend, we're able to win this war. But we need strong support. We need concrete actions of the world leaders, of the alliance leaders, to help us to win this war, to liberate our territory, to back our territorial integrity in the international recognized border, and to secure Ukraine for the future. As Andriy said, these documents which we present today, the key conclusion, it's a very sample of these documents. Ukraine should be invited to join the alliance very soon, because it's only most strong security guarantees for our country. And it's absolutely wrong that this will be escalations of aggression of Russia. I want to say that aggression, invasion started in 24 February, full-scale invasion, I mean, because war started 10 years ago, when Ukraine not be members of NATO and just don't have invitations. It's mean that it's Russia, it's Putin, change reality in the Europe. breaking the security system. And in the results of this invasion, two countries, to our friends, to our partners, Sweden and Finland, decided and already started members of the NATO. It means that Putin and Russia change reality. And of course, our documents give the very strong, very deep arguments why it's so important to invite Ukraine, why it's so important in the July in Washington anniversary summit, necessary to agree strong decisions, because if it would not happen, Putin received more attitude, more feelings that he had the veto right in the NATO. And this will be absolutely the signal to him and for another aggressors to continue. That's why I'm very happy. We have really excellent people in our group. And during short period of time, we was able to prepare these documents. I'm sure it will be very much discussed, because this is a recommendation, of course. Everything will be depends of decision of the alliance, and we will very respect the members of the NATO. But I'd like to say, 2 years, it's enough to show to all the world what is Ukraine, how we are strong, and what we are able, not just to win this war, but be a very strongest member of the NATO, and to help in the future, not just for ourselves, but be very responsible and serious partners for all the alliance, for all the members. Thank you, and we'll be ready to answer to your questions.
Yeah, we have around 10 minutes for questions. I'll start in the center here and then come to the left. But